Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Relationship Tea with Tina. And Tony is back for another episode.
Thanks for the welcome, Tina. I'm so glad to be back.
Wow.
You know, it's your boy.
So excited.
We're here. I love doing these so much.
Do you?
Yeah, I always appreciate it when you bring me on.
Okay. Well, today we're talking about millennial burnout.
Burnout is something that we've been dealing with today.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or if you're being serious.
No, I mean, I'm being serious. You had a day packed with calls.
I did.
I've been working on this insane project bid.
And I'm very burnt out.
Yeah.
I'm very burnt out.
Yeah, so it's fitting that we're going to be talking about this tonight.
I know. I've noticed that I've honestly barely been able to show up on social media recently. I'm popping in and out, but I'm in this weird space of needing to protect my peace and live a softer life. At least try to create peace where I can, because it's tough out there.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit, because I feel like social media has gotten to a place where it's almost difficult to make content that people want to consume.
Well, I think that I make content that people want to consume. It's just getting it seen. And I think that it's just an accumulation of different things that also lead to burnout. I think that it's an accumulation of finances. It's an accumulation of trying to navigate a healthy work ethic.
Fighting the algorithm?
Fighting the fucking algorithm. But
so
at this
hard.
point, I'm just kind of fuck the algorithm. Whoever sees my shit, sees my shit. But that's honestly the least. That's honestly the least of it. I think that it's more so kind of the burnout behind always being on the phone, feeling the need to always be on my phone. I'm trying to do a little mini digital detox, which I've also been encouraging you to do too a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough because we live our lives in our computers, and we've kind of been ingrained into having to do this.
I know.
In our careers.
I know. But I also did a deep dive on the computer. I went onto the Google.
You were on your computer.
Obviously, it was on the computer. Yeah. But I wanted to kind of look into what all of the traumas that we have experienced throughout kind of our lifetime, just to kind of give us an idea of everything that might have potentially led us to this place of consistent burnout.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an endless list, I imagine.
Well, there's 10 things on here. There's
10 things.
There's 10 things on here. But I'm sure there's more.
In our
own worlds, I'm sure there's more in our own personal worlds, but this is what the internet told us, because I said, okay, what are some traumatic events that millennials have experienced, in our lifetime? And obviously a millennial is defined from if you're born between the early 1980s until the late 1990s. I was born in 90, so I'm a straight up millennial.
I was born in 89, so I'm obviously an 80s baby.
You're not an 80s baby.
You already know.
You're not an 80s baby.
You already know. I think that my music taste says that I'm an 80s baby.
I don't like 80s music. I am not a fan of 80s music, and I will never be a fan of 80s music, so...
No, give me the synths, give me the riffs. I still listen to that Kate Bush song from Stranger Things when I work out.
I know, but you also also have this weird love for the Weeknd's 80s music.
Oh, it's
and
the
I
best.
No.
I'm a motherfucking star boy.
Okay. Anyway, the list starts off with 9/11, and that's kind of the earliest traumatic millennial event that I personally remember.
Yeah, I think it's the first one that we can remember, but there's one before it.
Yeah.
So when we were born, when George Bush Sr. was in office, we were actually thrust into the Gulf War. If you don't remember the Gulf War, I don't remember it either. But in the late 80s, early 90s, the U.S. went to war with Iraq because Iraq was invading Kuwait for their oil. Now, I don't know all the logistics around it.
I must have been really bad at history because I don't know. I don't remember any of this.
Well, we were 4.
Maybe I should have known.
We were 4 years old when the whole thing kind of ended.
So that doesn't really impact us as millennials.
But it's worth noting that we never really got out of the continuous war cycle, right? We were born into war, and we are still fighting wars today.
Yeah.
Largely in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I feel like that scales all the way back to when we were born, and just kind of compounds the trauma that we've all experienced. Add to it the rest of your list that I'm sure you're going to hit me with.
Yes, I am. Okay, next on my list, global financial crisis between 2007 and 2008. I graduated high school in 2008. And I think that for a lot of earlier millennials, this may have impacted them a little bit more than it did me personally in my life. But, leading millennials to struggle with job scarcity, student loan debt starting to kind of like pile up for them, and like financial instability leading in there. I know that can't remember if my family was heavily impacted by like whatever happened with the real estate market. But I know that my dad claims that he was, but he claims a lot of things. So,
well, your dad. Let's not talk
another
about
episode.
Let's not talk
we
about
dove into that on the whole another episode, but it could have been impacting a lot of people, right? Earlier millennials, I think more so than us.
Yeah, I mean, they were in a situation where they were kind of asked out of jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of people lost their homes.
Yeah.
And it was just really tough for everyone to kind of get their grasp on life again.
Yeah. Next is rise of mass shootings and school shootings. 1999 was, when Columbine happened. And then you have Sandy Hook that happened in 2012. Both, changed, the safety that I feel going into crowded places or even movie theaters. And it's just kind of like an ongoing ominous feeling that you just kind of never know, and it makes me nervous and it gives me anxiety and it makes me scared. Kind of back how when I'm mentioning 9/11, that changed flight security for forever.
Oh, for sure.
You can't ever board a plane the same way you used to be able to.
I remember when my parents used to ship me off to Texas for summers when I was a little kid. My mom would go all the way to the gate with me to say goodbye to me. And then she would just ship me off for two freaking months just because she needed to get me out of her hair.
Fair.
No. It's not fair.
Well, it's like sleepaway camp. It was like your version of parents sending their kids to sleepaway camp.
Yeah, except I was thrust into a hyper-Christian situation where my aunt would take me to church every Sunday and people would do I don't know if you've seen church videos, but when people faint at church, people were doing that at the church that I would go to. I did it.
Was that traumatizing to your millennial self?
I pretended to fucking faint.
What?
At a church. Yes. I never told you this, but I pretended to faint at a church just because everybody else was doing it.
You pretended to faint.
Yeah, when Jesus takes control and you're and then the pastor comes up and he's like, bang!
Oh my God.
And then you pass out. People were doing that all over this hyper-Christian Texas church. And I had to deal with that for 3 summers in a row.
Was that traumatic?
Looking back on it now, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. Because, my parents didn't raise me religious, but my aunt, she's my cousin, but she was she's also my mom's sister. It's complicated. Yeah. But she was super religious at the time. Her sons played in the church band. It was a whole thing.
Okay.
And yeah, looking back on that now, I'm just that's kind of weird.
Well, no shade.
No, of course not. Of course not. Yeah. I think what I experienced was
it wasn't by choice, and it was you were kind of just thrown into it.
Yeah, and it was the more extreme version of Christianity. You know what I mean? It wasn't as tame as I've gone to church since then, and it's a little bit more chill than that.
Next on the list is climate change, environmental disasters.
Yeah. Wow.
I remember the 1994 earthquake. I do. I remember that night very vividly for some reason. I think it was 1994. I remember that because I grew up in California. Now I'm just kind of on the verge. You're always kind of expecting. Mother Nature doesn't fuck around. If you fuck too much in her areas, she is gonna fuck shit up. I just said fuck a lot. But it's true.
You know what's crazy is that we've endured so many world disasters due to climate change.
Yeah.
I can think of so many vivid images. And to this day on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call the platform, I see videos posted of the tsunami in 2004.
Yeah.
And people were videotaping it as all of the water receded. Mm-hmm. And they just stood there and taped it, and that claimed thousands of lives. The cameraman passed away. Moving on from that, I also remember Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
We were living in Bushwick. Wasn't that big of a hurricane. I remember planking in the middle of the street.
You mean Hurricane Katrina wasn't that big of a hurricane for New York?
Well, I might be
or are you talking about...
actually, sorry, backtrack. Katrina devastated New Orleans. Yeah. That's not the hurricane I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I am talking about Hurricane Irene, which hit New York, and it was kind of mild for us. Obviously, when you're in New York, you're further up north, so the hurricanes generally kind of die down at that point. But we also had Hurricane Sandy, which absolutely demolished the tri-state area.
I wasn't living in New York at that time yet. But
I have this vivid image of that roller coaster in New Jersey. I think it was on like the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Like halfway underwater. And it's like,
isn't it? I mean, nature's like really crazy. I'm telling you right now, global warming's real.
There's more coming.
Well, let's not put that out into the universe. Okay? And like, next would be on this list like war on terror and like overseas conflicts. Now, like you kind of mentioned, I feel like we've always felt like we were at war, but I lost a friend in Afghanistan on his first tour, which was very traumatic and very scary and very devastating.
That's tough. Well, we were just sending 18-year-olds to war.
I know. He went straight from high school.
Fresh out of high school. It's so sad. Shout out to the vets.
Yeah.
The government really owes you more care. We got to really fight for that.
I know. And plus it's like all of that kind of like war stuff, even like the current stuff that's going on in war, like it's all so much more, we're just becoming so much more exposed to it because of social media, because of the next point, which is on this list, the rise of internet and social media. So being able to see all of the stuff that's going on, the impact that it has on people, yes, it's amazing and awesome for us to have a voice and to be educated and to know what's going on without it being hidden from us and or manipulated. But seeing that stuff, it's just like, it's hard to see. Being consistently consumed by it.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is the platforms that we're on are kind of built to keep you on them.
Well, of course.
You have like TikTok and X and Twitter, whatever. Facebook, and it's just every platform serves a different purpose, but all of them are kind of built to keep you glued to your screen.
Well, also because once you like one video on a certain topic, it's going to start feeding you more and more and more and more and more.
And it makes us addicted to our phones. I mean,
I know.
There's days when I wake up and I grab my phone and I walk to the bathroom with it in my hand.
Yeah.
I leave the bathroom with it in my hand.
Huh.
And it's just, it's kind of become an extension of my hand.
I know.
I have one hand and then I have one phone. That's it.
I know when we left the other day and I actually forgot my phone to go to Starbucks, I was kind of like happy that I left it, and then we drove back to get it, but like I kind of wish I could have gone without it. I didn't need to take it with me to Costco. Like it would have been okay for like 30 minutes. Anyone who needed to like get a hold of me would have gotten a hold of me. It's like not that serious.
Yeah. For sure.
I think that like there's pros and cons with the whole like TikTok ban thing too. Like TikTok's fantastic, amazing, great. It gives people a voice. I think that it allows people to, like I said, be educated for real, to the extent of which, take what you see online with a grain of salt. But, for the most part. But I do think that when we are so consumed by it, it's going to trigger anxiety in one way or another. Triggers my anxiety.
Let's talk about that TikTok ban, because it's kind of it's interesting, because I feel like there's two sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I kind of fall in the middle too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like part of me is like, ban TikTok. Like I think we spend too much.
I think a lot of
Hang on. A lot of us kind of spend. TikTok really makes you scroll.
It does.
I had TikTok for a while and I got super addicted to it, and then I had to delete it because it just got out of control, and it was increasing my phone time exponentially.
And then I got all mad at you because you were watching those ASMR videos, and then it caused the whole thing. And then that's when you deleted it.
Which is like weird as fuck, because you watch this mukbang stuff, which is basically the same thing. The only difference is that
I don't watch it like that.
Instead of watching someone like scratch their mic, you're watching someone on their food, which is way more disturbing. Regardless of the fact, my point is that the other side of the argument, there's people that say TikTok should be banned because it keeps you on your screen and it dumbs you down. The other side of the argument is they're censoring us. Yeah. Right? The government is censoring us. There's a lot of stuff that's on TikTok. There's a lot of stuff that's on X that a lot of people don't want to see, or the government doesn't want you to see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. Right now, like where's Kate? Where's Kate?
I don't know where Kate is, but I know that the people that they are showing us is not her.
Not
That's
Kate.
not her.
Let me tell you something.
I don't know. My sister was in London. I should have asked her what the vibe was around there.
Oh, I DM'd her. I was like, "Where's Kate? Find Kate." The thing is, there's no way. Tangent. There's no way. It's 2024. TMZ just put out a video of Kate and Prince William walking through a farmer's market.
Yeah, but I think those tents were the little like chalets they call them.
Mm-hmm.
They were like from Christmas. So I don't know how recent that was. People also, like, the internet can do everything, and they unblurred the photo, and then you could see that it clearly wasn't her.
But that's the thing, right? We all carry HD cameras in our pockets.
Yeah. And
my phone shoots 4K, your phone shoots 4K, and TMZ is shooting a potato quality video in 2024. It just, please, someone make that make sense.
I know.
I don't get it.
I know. Hi, Callie. Callie was like looking at me, falling asleep with like her head up and her tongue out.
She's wondering where Kate is also.
Anyway, rise of social media, internet, changes everything.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you think, because I feel like the majority of your business is on social media.
Yeah.
So how do you think the rise of social media has impacted you?
I think that it has me glued to my phone way more often, which then causes anxiety. It has me feeling pressured to post content to keep my business going. I'm trying not to scroll as much, but it's still hard. It's hard not to also base your self-worth and your value off of how well a piece of content performs. And then, like, if it performs really, really well, you almost get kind of, like, addicted to that feeling. And then when you don't have that feeling again, it's kind of just like, oh, shit, like, oh my God, am I not good enough? Oh my God, is my career just gonna like tank? So it's a very like up and down roller coaster of like basing your self-worth off of numbers, which I'm really trying to get better at not doing.
I feel like I'm starting to understand where you're coming from, because recently I've gotten into my midfluencer era.
Midfluencer?
Yeah, midfluencer, because I'm not there yet, but I've just been posting on Twitter like daily about stuff, and like over the past couple of weeks, like a lot of my posts have gotten tons of engagement, and you've seen me. I'm just like, babe,
like,
look at my engagement.
Numbers.
Babe, look at these numbers.
And
then I'm just like, yeah, those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up, baby.
I'm like, talk to me when you get 1 million views. I'm just kidding.
But it's like, honestly, I had never experienced like engagement addiction until I started posting on Twitter, and I just remember I posted like one 5-sentence post regarding Formula One. And it just like generated so much like engagement. People were liking it. People were hating on me. And I was like, damn, this is awesome. And then I just kept trying to do it. And it glued me to my phone even more. And then it just fell off.
Exactly. And then when a post doesn't do good, you're kind of like,
what's the point of this?
What happened? Yeah. I thought it was vibing here.
Yeah. And then I started posting more controversial stuff to get that engagement.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're never going to beat the algorithm. And like, you can't base your self-worth off of like who likes your photos, how many people like your photos, whatever. I really just focus on putting out quality content. If my message is great, then I know that my message is great. And like, that's kind of it. I'm trying to find peace with that. I have my days where I try not to, but that's where, I don't know, working on my relationship with myself has really come into handy, boosting my confidence, trying to ground myself, trying to heal,
For sure.
I just feel like you're always trying to like do better. Sometimes I just want to kind of exist without feeling like I'm not like working on healing something or growing from something. And that's where I honestly also feel like this burnout feeling comes in, because I feel like we're consistently having to like overcome and heal and grow through this chapter and move through this traumatic event and navigate after being a pandemic and trying to create a normal life again. Next on the list was the pandemic and the global health crises. Like, I just feel like it's one thing after a fuck another. And like, we can't catch a break where things just feel kind of semi-peaceful for a while. We're like, okay, like our economy's working. Okay, cool. Finances are great. Okay, awesome. I don't have to
Bam, inflation.
Yeah, and then I don't have, that was probably really loud in your ear. I'm really sorry. But then I don't have to worry about like spending $100 every time I leave the house. I'm grateful that I can. Okay. But I just feel like
we literally went to
like a hamster wheel of whatever. Yeah.
We literally went to the supermarket like 2 days ago and spent $100.
I know.
On 2 sandwiches and some snacks.
I know. And I warned you too. I said, if we go to the market right now, like we're committing. I said, let's like see if we could even stay under $100, and it was like $85.
Yeah, but you can't take me to the market when I'm hungry because it's over. It's over, and I will just spend it all. But I think everything that you've mentioned just again it just compounds on how people interact with each other, right?
Yeah.
It really comes to a point where it affects your personal relationships, your work relationships. It affects how you interact with strangers.
The burnout.
The burnout. And they just having all of this stuff that's happening to millennials.
Especially because, like, I've been working since I was 14. My first job at Taylor's Tea House, where, like, I was helping, like, it was like a little girl's birthday party place where they would come and, like, I would do their makeup and their nails and their hair, and then, like, we'd teach them, like, a little dance and, like, serve them. And it's a great time, but I've literally been working since then, whether I was going from that to the nannying to then having a corporate world job, and then in your corporate world job you're like introduced to this whole other side of what burnout looks and feels like, where you're stuck to your desk for 8 hours a day, and I'm eating lunch at my desk and not even taking a break, and then you're intertwined into this like really unhealthy
culture.
Yeah, and like work-life relationship and balance, and then like you gotta like it's crazy, and then no payoff. Like, what's the American dream anymore? Sorry, I'm going on a rant, but like.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I think I want to go back quickly to your first job.
Yeah.
Show me one of the dances that you taught your kids.
No, I don't even remember. I know that we taught them like a High School Musical dance at one point.
Okay. Is that Zac Efron was in High School Musical? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Look at me. I'm notoriously bad with pop culture. So the fact that I know that. You were
also a Nickelodeon kid, and now I feel like that also has traumatized me after watching Quiet on Set. We finished it today. And
you know what's weird is that really I have to say Quiet on Set at work. Like a lot of times.
I mean, I think.
And now it's gonna sound so weird when I'm like Quiet on Set.
No, but I think it's a brilliant name for the name of the documentary.
Oh, for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But going back to jobs, my first job, I worked at Domino's Pizza, and I was probably 12 years old. Mm-hmm. Which.
So young.
Yeah, we can question child labor laws, but again, it was like 2002, so like fresh out of 9/11, things were still starting to change.
Yeah.
I have a really interesting memory of just picking up the phone because I was one of the phone picker-uppers to take your pizza order. The Super Bowl was always like slammed. And I would always miss the big game, which is unfortunate. But the point of that story is that it was kind of traumatizing because I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. People would call up and then they would refer to me as a girl because I hadn't gone through puberty yet.
That's so sad.
Yeah, and it really kind of made me feel bad about myself until I grew up, and then I realized you hadn't gone through puberty yet.
Yeah, your voice sounds pretty manly now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever mistaken you for a woman now.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good because I'm not.
I know. So if that helps boost your self-esteem,
Hey, every little bit helps 2024.
I know.
See, it's crazy because we started working at the tender age of 12, 14, whatever.
Told the trajectory that if you do this, if you go to college, if you graduate college,
you will have the American dream.
You get married, you buy a house, you have babies, you retire.
You know how much the American dream costs nowadays? So I again, trolling Twitter, X. I'm gonna keep calling it both.
Yeah, Anthony needs a digital detox from Twitter though.
Okay, well, you need a digital detox from TikTok. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk about how that impacts our relationship. When we just sit on opposite ends of the couch and we're, like, scrolling and, like, not talking to each other, or when we go to bed at night, putting our phones down.
Yeah, it's something that we've been actively working on. And we have a couple of things that we've done to kind of offset that, right?
Yeah.
We have those sweet little paintings that we started doing.
Yes.
Right? Which are really fun.
Yeah.
Basically,
it's like the paint by numbers.
Paint by numbers, yeah, if you've ever heard of it. And we also, I've got into Legos really recently. Mm-hmm. And I think that really kind of takes us away from kind of just constantly being on our phones.
We meditate together sometimes before bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, I think a lot of that is to overcome what I effectively would say the brainwashing of society, right? Mm-hmm. As I was scrolling through Twitter the other day, I saw a post about what it costs to live the American dream now.
Yeah.
Right, and just it kind of blew my mind because my parents, they came here in the 80s from El Salvador with like the t-shirt on their backs, right? Mom took a job as a cleaning lady. My dad took a job as a dishwasher, ultimately became an upholsterer. And they got to a point in their lives where they were able to buy a house and sacrifice everything for me, you know? And I feel like now in 2024, we're at this place where like that feels impossible. And that Twitter post said, I didn't really go into the research. I didn't click any links, but face value, it said that the American dream, house, 2 kids, dog, 2 cars, white picket fence, $3.5 million.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. Every nice house that I'm looking at, I'm just like, oh, $1 million. I go on Zillow and I'm just like, let me just manifest this like house that I'm going to like hopefully move into one day.
Yeah. And then you realize that your $1 million house is actually a shack in like a really crappy neighborhood.
Well, you know, I think that we've tried to do a good job to not allow the financial aspect to impact our relationship, which could absolutely happen because, I mean, for a while we weren't being fully transparent about debt and like how much money each of us had in our bank accounts and like what we could realistically kind of like do overhead wise and what that really looked like. And then we had to like really sit down with each other and like kind of get on the same page with our finances and be honest and lay it all out on the table and not hide anything and like find peace knowing that maybe we're not going to buy a house right now simply because like I'm not trying to spend all my savings on like a house here in Seattle that's like not something that I want and or dreamed of, and I'm not trying to like super duper compromise.
Oh, so, for sure.
You know,
and it's so different now. I feel like back then, and I keep thinking back to this meme that I've seen online of like this young couple in their 30s back then, where they're like, "Oh, honey, we've done so much. Let's buy a house." You know, and you know, you back then I feel like you could buy a house for like $4 and a bag of apples.
I know.
And like that same meme has like this really raggedy person underneath it. That's like, oh, I bought an avocado toast. I will never financially recover from this.
Yeah, but who's also giving that advice? That advice came from that Dave Ramsey guy who's like a boomer who gives financial advice and says all that kind of stuff. And maybe he has some good points. I've never really followed him. But that's where that whole spiel kind of came from. He said that you're not financially stable because you buy your iced coffees and the avocado toast and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that just sounds so ridiculous to me because if we look at, you know, data, inflation has gone up. The prices of everything have gone up, but we're still sitting at our computers, working our manual jobs, striving to get a 5% raise every year.
I know.
And it's just like, what is the point of all of that? It's.
Well, I think that some people have to kind of operate that way. You know, I think that the pandemic also kind of like proved like a huge pivotal moment in people questioning the work-life balance, hours, being in an office, working from home, challenging people to maybe look outside of the corporate world too. I know that that's what it did for me. Like I decided to start my business after the pandemic happened. And I was like, I'm not trying to do this forever. I knew that I was never... From the minute I got my neck tattoo, my mom's like, you'll never work in corporate with that tattoo. I was like, I don't want to work in corporate.
Which also, like, your neck tattoo is, like, behind your neck. Your hair covers it. You would never know that you had it.
I know. But it was just, like, a mom thing to say. And it was just kind of like, and then I ended up having to work in corporate. And I think a lot of people do go that route. But if that's what you love, then fantastic, amazing. Some people love it. I just knew that it wasn't for me. And so I used the pandemic as an opportunity to really kind of like explore a passion. So I didn't want to sit behind my desk all day long. And I wanted to do something that like brought me joy and made me feel fulfilled. And it was really scary, but it felt like the right time to trust myself to just go for it.
Well, I think the pandemic really, it was kind of two-sided, right? You know, there's obviously very stark negatives to it. But I also think that there was a lot of opportunity for people.
Yeah.
Right? We all kind of got assigned to work from home for 2 weeks, and then we're back in the office. Right?
Yeah,
that
right.
never happened.
I know.
But it allowed you to start your own business.
Yeah.
And it allowed me, for example, to kind of start freelancing while also working full-time and trying to ultimately build out my client base.
Yeah.
And get to where I am now, where I can have my own business too.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I feel like a lot of people were alone And a lot of people have slipped into relatively dark mindsets. I think even for us, we moved to Seattle from New York in 2020, right as the bodies started piling up. I'll never forget, as we were leaving New York, there were just big rigs driving in that were going to be morgues for people. And then we landed in Seattle, and it was a ghost town.
I know, talk about traumatizing. And then during that time, we have like all of the political unrest and then all of the like BLM and George Floyd stuff going on. That in itself was a whole traumatizing millennial event that, like, gosh, living here in Seattle, freshly new to the city. Then you have them set up that whole Chaz thing where they basically, like, during the Floyd protests, some people totally took advantage and created this entire, like, community for themselves and acted like it was on protest and were fighting the cops, and then there were shootings every night, and people were, like, live streaming this whole situation. And I'm like, oh my God, where did we just move to? What is going on?
That entire Chaz era. Chaz stands for Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And effectively what happened is a community of people took over like a block.
Callie, come here.
Pardon. A community of people took over a block in Capitol Hill right in front of a police precinct. And I think at first it started off as protest, and then it became something entirely different, right? There would be standoffs with police every day. Yeah, the grape is lit. Shout out to Poppy. Please sponsor us. Every day.
I like the root beer ones better, though. Sorry.
Every day, there would be standoffs with police. And, some people were nonviolent. Other people would be throwing water bottles and throwing things at police. And, the police, they dish it out. So they'd be throwing cans of pepper spray. They'd be spraying people down, brutalizing people.
Yeah.
And it became something beyond of what a protest was, in my opinion.
It was unsafe. I did not feel safe at all. I did not.
All of that was kind of a culmination of the trauma that we've experienced to date, to be honest.
It really led me into, like, having to, like, find alternative ways to, like, cope with the shit. I also, like, really learned how to set boundaries in my life, trying to navigate this freaking burnout situation. Boundaries. Like, because not only was I feeling burnout and, like, all of those other aspects of my life, financially, career-wise, trying to heal all the time and do this kind of stuff, but, like, also, like, reevaluating relationships in my world and, determining who had a place in my life, because, like, people can burn you out too if they're not bringing positive energy into my world. It's, I'm very familiar with that. So you can get relationship burnout.
How do you move past some of these relationships that you've had to kind of cut off?
It's a long story, but I just kind of started distancing myself, asking myself if these people benefit my life anymore, if they're causing me more harm than good. And then you just kind of have to start slowly setting more so energetic boundaries. When you set boundaries with the people in your life, relationships wise, I think there's only certain kind of circumstances where you need to, like, strictly sit down and communicate those boundaries, like I've had to do with my dad. I mean, I haven't told him, hey, act motherfucking right or I'm going to cut you off. But I set boundaries where it's just like, I don't really feel like being a part of this right now. I just don't feel comfortable. But, I love you and I'm here to support you. But, like, he doesn't respect my boundaries. So then you have to, like, take it to that next level. So then I'm kind of just like, okay, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stop talking to you.
I'm a fan of Ireland, and they came up with the greatest way of saying goodbye ever. And if someone's not working for me...
You just Irish goodbye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, it's not worth my energy to try to make amends after I've tried to make amends, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if I've said what I need to say and you don't get that, I'm not going to try to explain myself to you again. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to...
Yeah. I mean, I just think that it falls into the category of just, like, I don't have the energy. Maybe because I'm so burnt out in all of the other areas of my life. So if you're not going to provide value, then I'm not going to deplete that energy there. Trying to, like, find other ways to cope with the massive amounts of anxiety I think that our generation navigates too. I mean, meditation has honestly changed my life, and I'll say that until my face turns blue, trying to like during the process of like the pandemic and starting my business, like all that other stuff from my past started to come into play that I needed to be healed because everything in the world quieted it down. So then that brought a whole nother aspect of like, hey, you have some unhealed shit you need to kind of figure out from your past relationships. And then that started being a thing in my life. And then I was like, okay, I need something to ground me. I need something to like work through all of this. So I just think that in burnout is just kind of like a common theme. And I'm tired of running that hamster wheel. I really am.
That damn hamster wheel. And it's crazy because going back to social media, which I feel like perpetuates the hamster wheel. I've been on LinkedIn a lot recently as I try to kind of expand my own business. And I feel like we've gotten to a place where, we've been built for this. Like from the moment that we were in school, we've been kind of think about school.
I know.
Right?
We didn't learn anything actually useful.
But it's not even it. It's like you go to school from like 7 to 3, which is about, I don't know, what is that, 7 to 8 hours a day?
Yeah.
Right? Which is preparing you to sit at a desk
for 7
to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
To then just kind of do that for the rest of your life. I remember when I graduated college and I got my first job, and then I was like, so this is it? I just work until I die?
Yeah, until you're 65 and then hope you have enough to retire.
Which, I mean, Social Security is going to be gone by the time we get to that point. But it's just, it's like a brainwashing, right? And LinkedIn shows it to me more than any place in the world. Because every day on LinkedIn, I see people getting laid off. And like Seattle experienced about 40,000 layoffs in like 2022.
I know, it's crazy.
Like 40,000 people lost their jobs.
Yeah.
And I still see it to this day. People get on LinkedIn after they've gotten fired and they thank their employer for like all of the opportunities that they've gotten. And, I understand the idea of like not burning bridges, it's going to keep you going. But at the same time, like you can just like not say anything and carry on and try to get your next gig. But it blows my mind that we feel like we have to do this. We have to thank the company that doesn't give a fuck about us so that we can keep going in this hamster wheel.
I know.
And obviously a lot of us are kind of stuck in a golden handcuff situation.
Yeah.
Where we have our bills to pay. We need this job. We need that job.
Yeah.
But there's got to be something better. And I think you and I might be onto that. But I think it goes without saying that being an entrepreneur means that you're not working 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
You're working like 70 hours a week.
Yes.
Right? You're putting in way more effort to do your thing.
You're wearing all of the hats, and then you have a whole nother level of burnout to navigate and experience. So I think that we haven't allowed our burnout to impact our relationship too much. I think that it's absolutely possible. And we do have our moments where I shut down, where you shut down, where we're just on our phones and just like stuck in that spiral. But I think that the one thing that's kind of kept us both grounded is our ability to communicate through all of this, to share our feelings through all of this, to get better at it at least, and focusing on our own growth and our own healing and just kind of like leaning on each other when we need to be leaning on each other.
Yeah, and it's also finding time for ourselves, right? I think at the end of the day, we're a couple. We do things as a couple. We find peace as a couple. I think oftentimes we meditate as a couple when we're not scrolling in bed.
Yeah.
But also like finding our individual peace.
Yeah.
You go and get your dopamine hit when you go to the gym by yourself. I do the same thing. I really like going out into the mountains because I feel like it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
I also find a lot of therapy in washing the car, for example.
Okay.
There's just something about doing that just kind of brings you to baseline.
Fair, whatever works.
Yeah, I mean, do you enjoy doing laundry?
No, I don't enjoy doing laundry. I don't enjoy doing laundry at all. I don't want to do any laundry. I leave my clothes in the dryer for days.
I kind of enjoy it.
No, I think it just hurts my back to stand there and fold, but that's like a cheer problem. But I have my moments where like I do find peace in like doing certain things. I'll just lay also in the bed with the dogs and just lay there and cuddle and be in their presence. I love that. I think Maisie's so cute. She's cuddled under her blanket. I think that you just have to kind of like find what works for you.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people that
And it can look different.
Can look different.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people resort to smoking weed, to drinking alcohol. And, you know, those are
temporary. Those are temporary fixes to an immediate problem. I feel like you need to find something that's more kind of like substantial and long term, and that actually benefits your mindset and contributes to like raising your vibrations instead of lowering them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know? Yeah. Especially when it comes to burnout. Like, there's nothing wrong with, of course, at the end of the day. Like, if you want to smoke weed, smoke weed. If you want to have a drink, you have a drink. Nothing wrong with that. But, like, long-term type of coping mechanisms, meditation, journaling, talking it out, reaching out for support, going for a walk. That helps me all the time when I walk down to the water.
Hitting the weights.
Taking a break, setting some boundaries, giving yourself, like, a week off of social media.
You should do that.
I know, I really should. If you guys don't see me for a week, you know who to blame. Okay. I'm just saying. But now I'm burnt out. Now I'm tired. Now I'm burnt out. How you feeling?
You know, I think I live my life largely just being like, get through this day. Get through this day.
That's not a really fair way to...
But at the same time, you know, I think there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
You know, and
maybe things will get better. Maybe we'll catch a break every now and then. But I think that life will be life.
Well, we do catch breaks, right?
Yes.
And we just have to be cognizant of when those breaks happen, because those breaks can look different.
Yes.
You know, sometimes those breaks can look like us cuddling on the couch with the dogs. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those breaks can look like a week-long vacation.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes those breaks don't come for a while.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when we have to resort to finding that peace and that joy within ourselves.
Yeah.
To really kind of keep going.
Well, I'm going to go and do that right now because I'm tired. So let's go find some peace and some joy.
All right. I'm down.
Okay. I love you.
I love you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. If I don't, if you're listening to this in the morning, afternoon, or night, my loves, I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, or night.
Peace.